Hello and welcome to ELL Plus with me, Monika Ghosh.
And me, Samuel Quashie-Idun, bringing you news and features from around the boroughs.
Those are Lewisham, Croydon, Tower Hamlets and Hackney.
In this week's programme, as the financial implications of yesterday's budget sink in, what will it mean for people wanting to buy new homes?
Overground trains will run all night at weekends from the middle of December as the night tube gets a southeastern extension.
And we meet the Croydon rapper fighting to reduce knife crime with a personal message to gang members.
The Chancellor Philip Hammond has been touring the TV studios today, defending his budget outlined yesterday in the House of Commons. Investments in driverless cars, a 26 to 30 rail card and increased spending promises for the NHS were all part of the package. But it was Mr Hammond's announcement about stamp duty that made the headlines.
So with effect from today, for all first-time buyer purchases up to £300,000, I am abolishing stamp duty altogether.
A loud cheer from the Tory benches in Westminster there, but what does it mean more locally? Well, for first-time buyers purchasing properties up to £500,000, the first £300,000 will be stamp duty-free, saving people up to £5,000. But the Office for Budget Responsibility reckon this would lead to a rise in prices, which could cancel out any saving. So in London, where house prices are so much higher, I had a closer look at the ELL boroughs and spoke to a few local estate agents. In Croydon, the average first-time buyer price is just under £325,000. But Streets Ahead estate agents think there will definitely be an increase in prices. They said it could happen almost immediately. Moving slightly north to Lewisham, average first-time buyers are spending around £370,000. Bluefield estate agents said prices will stay where they are, but hope that this announcement will give their sales a boost. Dimension Estates in Hackney don't expect much of a change in prices either. They called the announcement a gimmick and said it won't help buyers, but might help estate agents clear out some of their stock. This is the most expensive of the ELL boroughs, with first-time buyers spending an average of more than £550,000, so falling outside of the stamp duty relief bracket altogether. Finally, in Tower Hamlets, where the average price for first-time buyers falls just under the £500,000 threshold, Atkinson Macleod told us that they're not expecting an immediate price rise, but potentially an upswing after Christmas, when more people might be looking to buy.
Lewisham Council is encouraging local firms to pay the living wage by giving them a £5,000 business rate discount. The Council's living wage scheme, which has been running for 5 years, is supported by 45 companies and encourages them to pay a minimum of £10.20 an hour. Malika Fachrou reports.
Living in London means dealing with the highest living costs in the UK. Just take paying for transport to get around the city. Once you add that to ever-rising rents and steadily growing house prices, the Special London Living Wage Scheme makes a lot of sense. The Living Wage Foundation accredits any companies that are taking part in the scheme. But in Lewisham, even though there are 45 signed up, only 16 of those are fully accredited.
I'm here at the New Cross Gate Trust, a charity funded by the Lewisham Council and one of the few companies in the area who pay the London living wage.
Based in the beautiful Basson Street Community Garden, this local charity provides a wide range of services to the community in New Cross Gate. It supports families and people struggling financially to learn new skills with classes and services like employment support. I met Jenny, the manager, and asked her about the trust's experience of being signed up to the living wage scheme.
I think we've been signed up to the scheme and paying the London living wage for maybe the last 3 or 4 years.
Well, we just think it's important to value our employees, particularly because we work with people who are, in some cases, struggling financially. I think it's about half of families in this area are paid below the living wage and children living in poverty. We think that if those are the people that we value and want to support as a project, it would be very hypocritical not to pay people properly. I just think it's a good scheme. I think it's important, and I'd encourage lots of employers to do the same if they are able to.
The scheme is aimed at keeping Londoners on a wage that can tackle the city's daily costs. But as companies are only obliged to pay the national minimum wage, the scheme has still a long way to go. Malika Fachrou for ELL+.
Earlier, we spoke to Selina Bolingbroke, a member of the HR team here at Goldsmiths, and we asked her why the university has signed up to the London Living Wage Scheme.
Well, Goldsmiths actually started paying the living wage in 2011, so quite a few years ago now. But we were approached by Lewisham Council about 2 to 3 years ago. They wanted to encourage more employers within the borough to sign up to the London Living Wage Recognition Scheme. We were already paying it because we thought it was a good thing to do as an employer. It meant our staff were well rewarded, but it also meant if we signed up to the registered London Living Wage Scheme, that we could be one of the examples to other employers within the borough, and that's part of what Lewisham Council were keen to do, so that people recognise that it wasn't just good for the employees, for the residents of Lewisham, that they were paid the London Living Wage, but it was also good for employers as well.
And are all the employees at Goldsmiths directly employed, or do you have some employees via agencies?
Yeah, we do have some employees who are through our contractors, but as part of our contract with those contractors, we make it clear that they have to pay the London Living Wage. So all of the people who work at Goldsmiths are paid the London Living Wage, and that's one of the conditions as part of signing up for that recognition.
Great. And what steps do you think other large enterprises can take to get accredited as living wage employers?
Well, it's a relatively simple process, and actually there's lots of support that's provided by the London Living Wage in terms of employers who perhaps want to introduce it, recognise that they need to do it over time. You can get support in terms of how you go about doing that, how you make the transition, perhaps what arguments you need to make within your organisation, because obviously they collect evidence on the effects of the living wage from lots of different employers across the country. And if there are concerns that different people within the organisation might have, they can help give you information to help address those concerns. So it's something that we would very much encourage other employers within Lewisham to do, because actually more money that comes into our local economy is good for all businesses and all organisations within Lewisham.
Selina Bolingbroke from Goldsmiths, who spoke to us earlier.
Plans for a new library in South Norwood have been announced by Croydon Council. It's expected to cost £500,000. The proposed building would also offer more workspaces for classes and other activities. The decision to give the new building the go-ahead follows a recent survey which showed renovating the old library would have cost more than £400,000. The council is currently consulting local people to find out what they want from the new library. It's hoped the building will be ready by 2019.
Good news for late-night revellers and night workers in south-east London. The Overground will be operating overnight on Friday and Saturday nights from next month, running between New Cross Gate and Dalston Junction. After the success of the Night Tube, which began last year, the new service is set to give a big boost to businesses in areas like Shoreditch and Hackney. Josefine Henneberg has this report.
From the middle of December, Overground trains will be running through the night on Fridays and Saturdays. This will be the 6th line operating 24/7 at weekends. The London Night Tube started last year on 5 lines, and it's been a great success. According to the Mayor's office, the Night Tube has created more than 6.5 million new jobs. It plays a vital part in the capital's nighttime economy, bringing in £77 million a year. The new line should create more than 2,000 new jobs.
I think it's brilliant, having the opportunity on the weekends, staying out late and getting to the doorstep like all overnight is brilliant.
That actually sounds good, really good. So good. I like. That's good. Now we're waiting for the bus.
Well, it doesn't bother me because I don't use the night tubes. I'm sure it bothers other people, but not me. It's a good thing for people like me who used to live in the area where once the tube was closed, we had to then take a night bus, which took quite a long time to get here.
Until now, taking the bus has been the only way to get home in the early hours.
This is the final stop of the historic East London line. The 24-hour services will extend as of the 15th of December to the Overground. Nicknamed the Ginger Line, the trains will run throughout the night, Friday and Saturday, from here to Dorset and Hackney, and eventually up to Highbury and Islington. Josefine Henneberg for East London Lines.
Stay with us on ELL Plus News.
When we come back, we'll be meeting the rapper who's using his skills to combat knife crime.
And we'll be getting the latest from our fellow reporters on the East London Line's website in our regular ELL Roundup. See you in a few moments.
Welcome back to ELL Plus. Now it's time for our regular roundup around the boroughs. Poppy Noor is a London freelance journalist. She writes for The Guardian. She's also provided social commentary for Channel 4 News and Newsnight. This week, she's ELL's editor, an online site that provides a wealth of local news.
So, Poppy, the ELL account was very lively last night, and you were at the Tower Hamlets Council meeting. Could you tell us a bit about what happened?
Yeah, it was just sort of normal Tower Hamlets Council fare, really. Personal insults were being hurled across the room, councillors being branding one another as disgraceful. There was a bit of a coup. A bunch of councillors walked out of the meeting criticising a motion for being defamatory. So it was really just, it was very oppositional.
And last week we discussed the new Westfield in Croydon, but ELL appears to have written some serious issues about it. Could you tell us more?
Yeah, so our reporter Jamie McWhirter essentially was covering the fact that in the new development there isn't a high proportion of affordable housing. So Croydon's ambition is for 50% affordable housing on every development. Steve Khan's, he aims for it to be 65%. On the Westfield development, it's going to be 20%. And when you consider the fact that kind of affordable is considered 60 to 80% of the market rate, it's a really, really low proportion.
Now, the Hackney-born footballer Justin Fachrou was in a story on ELL this week. What's he in the news for?
Again, one of our reporters, Camille Mijola, has covered the fact that a story about his life has been is going to be released with Netflix. Really sad and moving story. He was the first openly gay footballer, and it kind of follows some of the details of his life.
Thanks so much, Poppy Noor from ELL. Croydon's Christmas celebrations are taking on a new look this year as the borough launches its bid to become London's first borough of culture. Giant light projections have been transforming the town centre with a series of glittering displays set to showcase the talents of local performers. The festive Fantasia has been billed as the centrepiece of the display in North End Street. The lights brought a touch of glitz and glamour to the Croydon town centre, despite the drizzle. It's all part of Croydon's plan to shake off its old image and show that the arts are looking up. £1 million prize is at stake for whichever area wins the title's London's first borough of culture.
Croydon says its winning strategy will incorporate improving young people's lives, building healthier and stronger communities, changing the way people see the borough, putting culture and people at the heart of regeneration, and building a vibrant cultural sector. 32 London boroughs are competing for the funding. The light display in Croydon is on until the day before Christmas Eve, giving the borough a head start, they hope, in this competitive cultural Christmas extravaganza.
2 teenagers are facing life imprisonment after being found guilty of murdering a young music producer who became caught up in a gang feud in Lewisham. Corey Donaldson and Alex Scott were convicted at the Old Bailey. The victim, Dean Pascal Modeste, was stabbed 14 times, jurors were told.
The case highlights the growing problem of knife crime in the capital, and with the police struggling to stop the rise in the stabbings, now a rapper from Thornton Heath called Prof has decided to use his rap music to deter youngsters from joining gangs. I've been to meet with him.
Mask off, yeah, I got my mask off. Mask off, Prof, he's got his mask off. They said I couldn't rip the beat, yeah, so I ripped it. And I ripped it, yeah, I ripped it hard.
This morning, I spoke to a rapper from Thornton Heath named Prof, who is using his rap platform to deter the youth from joining gangs and committing knife crimes.
So when I was growing up, there were gangs around. They were using knives, but I don't think that it's as bad as today.
Mask off, yeah, I got my mask off.
So how come you never got involved in knife crime?
Some people grow up without their dad. Now, if you grow up without your dad, you might look for a father figure somewhere else. The first place you're going to find that father figure is on the streets, the older kids. The older kids are going to be your father figure. I didn't need that. I have a father that tells me carrying a knife is wrong. I have a mother that tells me carrying a knife is wrong.
And your new EP is out, Invisible Guidelines.
Now, the title of Invisible Guidelines is basically the guidelines in which we follow. So when I say we follow, young black boys in a specific area, whereas you should follow guidelines in which we can't see. And the guidelines which are going to teach you to get out of a specific area.
So in your song This Trip, you have a lyric that says, I ain't saying it's right, but the feds don't care. What do you think is the main issue?
There's no trust between the police and youth. So that relationship is already dead. There's a typical stereotype of youth and there's a typical stereotype of police. So if that isn't like crushed and they don't bridge that gap, the problem will never be solved.
So what is your song What Is This Life about?
Yeah, it's just about telling people that there's more to this life and that there is an alternative.
So finally, if you had any message out there, what would it be?
It would be, firstly, to the young gang member, it would be, you're more than this. So my main thing to tell people is you can be what you want to be. Don't let stereotypes define you, and just try to break out of the area through your talents. You have to work on your talents and you have to work on your skills and you have to keep pushing so that you can actually get to where you want to get to.
That's the message for potential gang members from Prof, the rapper from Thornton Heath. That's it for now. Thank you for joining us.
And remember, you can catch up with all the latest on our website, eastlondonlines.co.uk. We'll see you next week.